Kyoto, the heart of Japan's culture and beauty. With ancient temples, bright maple leaves, and hidden gems around every corner, this city is a treasure trove of unforgettable experiences. With so many places to see and explore, it's easy to get lost and waste time, but that's where I'll come in. Join me as we dive into the top 10 must-visit spots that will make your Kyoto adventure truly magical. Hey, my name's Hanya, and today I'll be your guide to Kyoto. As for who I am, I'm someone who's been living in Japan for about 10 years now, with many of those years being in Kyoto. However, I did originally come as a tourist, so I know what it's like to not really know where to go. That being said, while a lot of things that I'll talk about today could be found scattered online, I made sure to combine it all for you into this one video, as well as include hidden local spots and pro tips that you probably won't find anywhere else. However, if there is a location that you feel you already know enough about, I included timestamps down below so you can skip ahead to the next part. Alright, so briefly I want to talk about traveling around Kyoto. While taxis and trains are cheap and very reliable, there are locations that prefer buses, and those can be a bit of a pain to figure out. Just look at some of this information available online. However, I think that Kyoto City started to catch on that their bus system isn't very tourist friendly, and on certain days they started giving out these helpful maps with popular tourist locations. After searching around, I managed to find it online and included the PDF site in the description. So in this video, I will talk about 3 shrines and temples, several nice shopping and relaxing areas, options for cheap and expensive places to eat, as well as finish off with one extra beautiful place. Now with that out of the way, let's jump into the locations. Alright, so I could easily make a top 20 video talking about only shrines and temples in Kyoto, but for the sake of time, I just included the top 3, with the first one being Kiyomizu-dera. Kiyomizu means pure water, and Dera means temple, so it's the temple of pure water. It's located on a mountain a bit west of Kyoto Station. About halfway up the mountain, there are many food and tourist stores for you to enjoy. If you're traveling here from Kyoto Station, the bus is recommended as it's cheap and will take you to the bottom of the mountain. However, a pro tip here is to actually take the taxi, as it's actually not very expensive, as Kiyomizu-dera is pretty close to Kyoto Station. Also, the taxi will bring you about halfway up the mountain straight to the shopping district, letting you save a lot of time. If you're not much of a walker, I really recommend this. Now you can visit the start of the temple at any time, but the stores and the main part close around 6. To enter the main area, you need to buy a ticket, which costs about 500 yen. After the first building, making your way a bit through the temple, you'll come across a crowded balcony with everyone taking pictures. Now since it can be quite crowded, I recommend actually ignoring this part and moving a bit down the path. There's a nice spot with the trees cut down to allow you to get the perfect picture of both the temple and the red tower behind it. After that, once you make your way a little bit more down, you'll come across the 3 waterfalls. Using the ladle, you can drink from one of them and make a wish. Now when it comes to the seasons to visit, you really can't go wrong, but Kyoto is extra beautiful during the fall, and Kiyomizu-dera is especially so. In addition to that, another pro tip is to actually check the events calendar. I linked it down below, but it is subject to change, so make sure you're checking the right year. In 2024, for example, between the 17th and 31st of November, you can enter the main temple all the way until 10 PM with a special light-up event ticket. I went last year, and I can say it was definitely worth it. On one final note, if you're thinking about wearing a kimono or yukata, this might just be the place to do it, as there's many rental shops in the area. I heard that the quality varies a lot depending on the store, so you might want to look a little bit more into the stores if you're seriously thinking about doing it. Alright, so next I gotta ask you, do you like taking pictures? Do you want the best picture of you in Japan? If the answer is yes, then you might want to go somewhere with cherry blossoms and Mount Fuji, but if you can't, Kinkaku-ji is a close second. Kinkaku-ji means Golden Pavilion, and it is located in the upper northwest part of Kyoto, making it a little bit difficult to get to. You can take the subway and the bus, but I recommend just taking the 204 bus for an easy, albeit slightly long, ride there. Now I'll be honest, I don't really like this temple that much, not because it's not beautiful, but because there's just not that much to do. Outside of taking pictures by the Golden Pavilion, there's really not much to it. However, if you do like pictures, Kinkaku-ji is unlike any other temple that you'll come across in Japan. Do be aware though that the time for this temple is a little bit strict, as it opens only at 9 and closes by 5. My small pro tip here is to get the ice cream once you're done with the temple, since this is one of the few spots where they can sprinkle golden flakes on top of the ice cream, and it's delicious. As for the season, the most beautiful pictures can be made when Kinkaku-ji is covered in snow in winter, but in reality it very rarely snows in Kyoto. In my experience, it only snows about 1 or 2 days out of the entire year, making it very hard. So I would recommend any season except for winter, with a big if. In case you happen to be in Kyoto when it's snowing, then you have to go to Kinkaku-ji to get that legendary picture. Now for my number 3 slot is my most favorite shrine in all of Japan, which is Fushimi Inari. This is a shrine that spans all the way from the bottom to the top of a mountain, and the path there is filled with beautiful red gates. Even if you haven't seen it, similar images are often included in Japanese art and anime. Now going there from Kyoto Station is super easy, as you just have to take the JR line, lines 8 or 9 to Inari, and this takes about 5 minutes. To get to the part with the red gates, you have to first go through the shrine and up the stairs. Once at the gates, beware that this is a very popular spot, making it super hard to get an actual good picture here. However, this shrine is very long, and the more you walk, the less tourists you'll encounter. Most people go through the starting part and then turn back, but you can actually go to the top if you'd like. It's a bit of a hike and takes about 30 to 50 minutes, but there's far less people on the top. My pro tip here is to actually go at night, as this shrine never closes. I went around 7:30, and despite it being a Saturday, there were barely any people once I made it past the beginning. This shrine is great in all seasons, just beware of summer as it gets very hot, so bring some water with you. Alright, so I talked about traveling to all these shrines and temples from Kyoto Station, and that's because it's the center where all the taxis and buses and trains tend to go from Kyoto. In reality though, Kyoto Station is even more than that. If you take the time to look around, you can find some amazing places. On the 2nd floor, you can find the entrance to a mall, from which if you take the elevator to the 10th floor, you can find yourself on the Ramen Street, which is exactly what it sounds like. I've eaten here a couple of times and it was amazing. From the Ramen Street, you can either go outside to the top garden area with a nice view, or go through the skywalk. The skywalk lights up at night and gives you a nice view of Kyoto Tower. Speaking of Kyoto Tower, I definitely recommend a visit. Unlike Tokyo Tower and Skytree, Kyoto Tower is not expensive, only costing about 900 yen to go to the top. There, you can walk around a circular room and see all of Kyoto. There are binoculars there that you can use totally for free, as much as you want. I used them to find places in Kyoto I didn't even know about before. So after all that sightseeing, you might be curious about seeing Kyoto's downtown and shopping district. It might be a little different than you expect though, as there's not really tall buildings there, and the area has a kind of a U-shape to it. To go there, I recommend taking the underground train to either Shijo or Kawaramachi. If you exit at Shijo and like the atmosphere, you can keep going straight and eventually into the Gion area. If you exit at Kawaramachi, you can keep going straight until Sanjo, which is also a popular area. Regardless, both roads connect to popular shopping districts. There, you can find both cheap and expensive brand stores, so you have to keep your eyes open. If you like anime or manga, or just want a cute anime souvenir, I got a pro tip for you. There's a chain store in the area called Book Off, located in this building on the 9th floor. They have both secondhand and new goods, and with some searching, the prices really can't be beat here. Now while the shopping districts might not always have the best prices, they do have a lot of animal cafes. Admittedly, I've heard some complaints and controversies regarding these places, but I'm not an expert in this. Because of this, I'll recommend it simply based off of my experience alone, so take it with a grain of salt. There's a popular cat and owl cafe in one place. You can choose to enter them separately, or pay slightly less to enter both. For the cats, they seemed very energetic, and for the owls, I really liked the large white one that looked like Hedwig. In fact, the staff later told me that her name is actually Hedwig. Next, very close by, is a mini pig cafe. They were bigger than I expected, but very friendly. At one point, I had 3 of them just relaxing on my lap. There's also several dog, cats, and Shiba Inu cafes. In other news, my favorite cafe is actually the otter cafe, Lotre. Now I would love to show you the adorable videos of the otters feeding from my hand, but unfortunately they have a no YouTube policy. Regardless, the otters seem happy and very energetic. The walls are filled with pictures of them growing up. There's even some otter drama. The staff told me that one of the wives of the otters is still angry at him because he recently cheated on her. Who would have known that otter society is so complicated? If animal cafes are not your type of activities, then I definitely recommend Sanjo. The wooden bridge there was finished recently, and the area by it is a very popular place to sit down and relax while looking at the river, which is called Kamogawa. Now walking for about a minute from this area, you come across an easy to miss but very beautiful street called Pontocho. This is one of the geisha districts, meaning that you have a chance to encounter a geisha or maiko, although they are quite rare. If you are lucky enough to encounter one, please be respectful and avoid touching or obstructing them. Now the street has a very nice feel to it and it's filled with restaurants, but they can be a little bit pricey. If you do decide to eat here, make sure you get an area outside so you can get a nice view of the river Kamogawa. Now if your objective is not to spend a ton of money and still have a nice meal, I got you covered. My recommendations are Sukiya, Ichiran, and Kurasushi. Sukiya is what I'd consider the pinnacle of fast food in Japan. It can be found in many places and rarely crowded. It is what I would consider a gyudon place, which is basically a bowl of rice with some kind of meat on it. Gyudon implies that it's beef, but in reality it's just meat, so just think bowl of rice with meats on top of it. To order, they'll usually have a touchpad with a button to switch to different languages. My favorite thing to get here is actually the cheese gyudon bowl, which comes with Tabasco sauce. They have different sizes, but on average, I'd expect people to spend less than 1,000 yen here. Next is Ichiran, which is a ramen place popular in Tokyo and Osaka. In Kyoto, there's only 2 locations though, and they're both downtown. The ramen is pork ramen, and this can't be changed, but pretty much everything else can be, from the firmness of the noodles to the spiciness level and so on. What sets this place apart is their focus on privacy. You write down what you want on a piece of paper so you never have to talk to the staff. When they bring you your ramen, they'll announce it and bow to you, but you'll never see their face, and you never have to say anything. On average, I would expect to spend about 1,000 yen here. And lastly, we have Kurasushi, which is arguably not a fast food place, but it is very popular, making you wait for up to an hour sometimes. Don't let that discourage you though, as if it's not lunch and dinner time, it can be much more free and you can just go in and sit down. Now Kurasushi is a sushi place with sushi on conveyor belts going around you. If you like one, you can just take one and eat it then, but my recommendation is actually to use the touch panel and to order fresh sushi, which should arrive within 1 or 2 minutes. After you finish eating, you dump your plates into the plate slot, and for every 5 plates, you can play the gacha game. Beware though, it is very hard to win. Honorable mentions here goes to McDonald, as the prices are still quite cheap and there are some items on the menu which you might not even find in other countries, such as the teriyaki burger. More recently, the Osaka burger is also popular, which uses fried rice instead of buns, which might sound a little bit weird, but it is absolutely delicious. Also, depending on the time of year, you might find even other options. Now if you got time and money and want to eat at a nicer spot, I got some good recommendations for you as well, with Torikizoku, Yakiniku, Kushi Katsu. Now Torikizoku is arguably the cheapest since every item has a set price of 370 yen. Don't let that fool you though, as most people end up paying about 3,000 to 4,000 yen here since the drinks are included in that price. Their touch panel is easy to use, but the English translation leaves a lot to be desired. They're famous for their chicken skewers, but I recommend the refillable cabbage and the chicken in green pepper. Next we have Kushi Katsu, which is a type of restaurant that you can find pretty much anywhere. However, the one that I'm specifically recommending is the one in the Ion Mall close to the Kyoto Station by the name of Kushi Katsu Monogatari. For a price of about 3,000 yen, it's all you can eat for about 90 minutes here. First, grab a plate of flour and a plate of breading. After that, grab whatever food you like. I love renkon and pork, so I got that. You first dip it into flour and then into breading, and then put it into the fryer for about a minute or two, depending on the food. After that, you take it out and leave it to cool, and repeat. Next is Yakiniku, which means grilled meat. This is also a type of restaurant that you can find all over the place, but they can be pretty different. Usually, you are given raw meat to grill yourself in the middle of the table. This is a bit more of a Korean thing, but Japanese restaurants have adapted their own way to it. A lot of places offer an all-you-can-eat course for about 3,000 to 4,000 yen for 90 to 100 minutes. If you're planning on going to one, make sure it's all-you-can-eat. The Japanese word for all-you-can-eat is tabe hodai, so you can ask if they have that or not. And last but not least, we have the most beautiful place in Kyoto, which is Arashiyama. Okay, I know calling it one location is not really fair since there's so much to do, but it is all located in one place west of Kyoto. You can get there by train from Kyoto Station in about 20 minutes. The highlights are the Togetsu-kyo Bridge, the Bamboo Grove, and the Monkey Mountain. If you have free time, I'd also really recommend taking the Sagano sightseeing train up the river and then taking the riverboat down the river. Pretty much no matter what time or season you go in, it is always popular and beautiful, but I recommend going in early in the morning as the shops close around 5 and the boat can only be taken until around 3. Now when it comes to seasons, it's hard to go wrong in Arashiyama. But like I said before, Kyoto is especially beautiful during the fall, and Arashiyama just might be the most beautiful place in Kyoto during fall. So if it's at all possible, I would really recommend late November. And that's all for the locations. Thanks for listening so far. If you're wondering about how many days you should spend in Kyoto, I would recommend no less than 3. Can it be done in 1 day? Not really. Can it be done in 2? Kind of, but you'll be missing out on a lot of spots and you will have no time to relax at all. 3 days is not bad, but you can easily spend up to a week exploring all of Kyoto and the surrounding areas. Now if you'd like a more detailed breakdown of all the things that you can do in Arashiyama, that's the topic of my next video. But that's all for today. Thanks for listening so far, and I'll see you next time.